On the flat plain of the Indus River, in what is now southern Pakistan, there is a city that should not make sense. Walk its streets today and you find them laid out in a grid, straight and deliberate, crossing at right angles as if drawn by a planner with a ruler. The houses are built of fired brick, every brick made to the same proportions. Beneath the streets run covered drains. Inside the homes are bathrooms and wells and a system to carry wastewater away. It is a clean, ordered, engineered city, and it is 4,500 years old. This is Mohenjo-daro. It rose around 2,600 years before the Common Era, at the same time as the pyramids of Egypt and the temples of Mesopotamia. As many as 35,000 people may have lived here. And then for nearly 4,000 years, the world simply forgot it existed. It was not rediscovered until the 1920s. And when it was, it forced historians to admit that one of the largest and most advanced civilizations of the ancient world had been hiding, unread, beneath a mound of dust. But the planning and the plumbing are not the real mystery. The real mystery is what is missing. Because in this vast, sophisticated city, archaeologists have found no palace, no royal tomb, no grand temple, no statues of god-kings, no monuments to conquest, almost nothing of the machinery that every other ancient civilization used to display its rulers. A city of tens of thousands of people, planned to the last brick, and no sign of who was in charge. And there is one more silence, deeper than all the others. These people wrote. They left thousands of inscriptions, and to this day, no one on earth can read a single word. This is the story of the perfect city and the people who vanished without telling us their names. For thousands of years, Mohenjo-daro was nothing but a low series of mounds on the Indus plain, scattered with broken brick. Local people had a name for the largest mound. They called it, roughly, the Mound of the Dead Men. No one knew why. The truth began to surface in 1922. An officer of the Archaeological Survey of India named Rakaldas Banerjee was working at the site, drawn at first by a Buddhist shrine that stood on the summit. But as he dug down, he found something far older underneath. Layers of brick walls and streets, and artifacts that belonged to no period anyone recognized. Among the finds were small carved seals, beautifully made, marked with animals and with a strange, unknown script. Those seals were the key. Similar ones had already turned up far to the north, at a place called Harappa, and a few had even been seen in the ancient cities of Mesopotamia, carried there, it seemed, by trade. Slowly, under the direction of the survey's leadership, the scale of the discovery became clear. This was not an isolated ruin. Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were two great cities of a single, previously unknown civilization, one that had spread across the Indus Valley and beyond, covering an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. History had to be rewritten. Before 1922, the deep past of the Indian subcontinent was thought to begin much later. Now suddenly there was proof of a mature, urban, literate civilization here at the very dawn of cities, as old as any on earth, that had risen, flourished for centuries, and then been completely forgotten. The diggers had not just found a lost city, they had found a lost world. To walk through Mohenjo-daro is to feel a strange, modern chill, because so much of it feels familiar. This was a city built on a plan. It was divided into two parts. To the west rose a raised mound, an artificial platform of brick and mud the archaeologists call the citadel, holding the city's great public buildings. To the east spread the lower town, the residential city, laid out on a grid of broad main streets running north to south and east to west, with smaller lanes branching off between blocks of houses. The bricks themselves are a quiet marvel, kiln-fired, hard-wearing, and made to a standard ratio used across the entire civilization, hundreds of miles apart. Someone somehow had standardized construction across an empire's worth of territory. And then there is the water. Mohenjo-daro had a genius for it. Many houses had their own well, in their own bathing room, with floors that sloped to a drain. That wastewater flowed out into covered brick drains that ran beneath the streets, fitted with inspection holes for cleaning. A municipal sewage system thousands of years before such a thing would appear again in most of the world. The people of this city could wash and drink and carry away their waste with an everyday convenience that much of humanity would not know again until the 19th century. At the heart of the citadel sits the most famous structure of all, the Great Bath. It is a large, watertight tank sunk into the ground and reached by steps at either end, its brickwork sealed with a layer of bitumen to hold the water in. We do not know exactly what it was for. Most believe some kind of ritual bathing, but its precision is undeniable. 4,500 years ago, these people built a sealed public pool and kept it from leaking. They were not primitive. They were, in the most practical sense, masters. And yet, the more closely you look at Mohenjo-daro, the louder a strange silence grows. Because for all its size and sophistication, the city is missing the very things that define every other great civilization of its age. Think of the ancient world the Harappans lived alongside. In Egypt, the pharaohs raised pyramids and filled tombs with gold, their faces carved colossal in stone. In Mesopotamia, kings built ziggurats to the heavens and left inscriptions boasting of their conquests. Everywhere the ancient state appeared, it announced itself, with palaces, with temples, with the towering image of a ruler. That is how we recognize power in the deep past. We look for the king. At Mohenjo-daro, the king is missing. No palace has ever been identified. No royal tomb stuffed with treasure. No great temple to a state god. No statue of a conqueror. No monument to a battle won. There are no grand burials at all. The dead were laid to rest simply with modest goods. The rich and the poor far less divided in death than in any comparable society. A city of tens of thousands of people engineered to the last drain, and almost nothing to tell us who ruled it or how. This is the true anomaly of the Indus. Not the plumbing, remarkable as it is, but the absence at the center of it. Somehow these people organized a vast, standardized, orderly civilization across hundreds of miles, coordinating trade, building codes, weights and measures, whole planned cities, apparently without the god kings and warrior emperors that every other early civilization seemed to require. We are looking at one of the first great urban societies on Earth, and we cannot find the throne. So who governed Mohenjo-daro? Here, honestly, we are reduced to careful guesses, because the people who could have told us left their answer in a code we cannot break. Some archaeologists imagine a society run not by a king, but by an elite of priests, ruling through religion and ritual from the citadel above the city. Others picture a class of powerful merchants and landowners, a kind of oligarchy that managed trade and enforced the remarkable standards in weights and bricks. A few have wondered whether the Indus cities were unusually equal for their time, governed by councils or shared authority rather than a single crown. The truth is, we do not know. Each theory is a shape pressed onto a silence. That silence has a name, the Indus script. The Harappans were literate. They left behind thousands of inscriptions, most of them short, just a handful of signs, carved onto seals, pressed into clay, scratched onto pottery. We have collected them for a century, and not one sentence of that writing has ever been read. We do not know what language it records. We do not even agree on whether it is full writing at all, or a simpler system of symbols. Without a bilingual key, an Indus Rosetta Stone, the script has kept its silence absolutely. Two famous objects show how little we truly grasp. One is a small bronze figure of a young woman, hand on hip, utterly self-possessed, that we call the dancing girl, though we have no idea if she danced. The other is a carved stone bust of a bearded man with half-closed eyes draped in a patterned robe that everyone calls the priest king, but we do not know if he was a priest or a king or neither. We named him out of our own expectations. The Harappans never told us. They could not or would not, and the seals stay shut. And then, around 1900 years before the Common Era, the perfect city began to die. It did not fall in a single night. The decline of Mohenjo-daro and of the Indus civilization as a whole looks to have been slow, a fading over generations. The careful maintenance lapses, the fine brickwork gives way to cruder repairs, the great cities lose population, and the wider standardized order that had bound the civilization together comes apart. By around 1700 before the Common Era, the urban world of the Indus had largely dissolved. For a long time, there was a dramatic explanation: invasion. Early excavators pointed to a scatter of skeletons found in the streets of Mohenjo-daro and imagined a massacre. The city stormed and its people slaughtered by incoming raiders. But that story has not held up. The skeletons come from different periods, not one final battle. There is no real evidence of a great sack. The end of Mohenjo-daro was not a single, violent fall. What the evidence increasingly points to instead is the slow turning of the natural world. The Indus civilization depended utterly on its rivers and on the rhythm of the monsoon. And in those centuries, the climate shifted. Rainfall weakened. Rivers changed their courses, and some are thought to have dried. The great watercourses that had fed the fields and floated the trade became unreliable or moved away entirely. A civilization built on water was undone, it seems, as the water failed. The people did not all die. Many simply left, drifting east and toward the foothills into smaller villages, abandoning the great cities to the dust. The lights of Mohenjo-daro did not go out in a blaze. They were quietly, patiently turned down. And so we are left with the perfect city, standing silent on the plain, keeping nearly all of its deepest secrets. We still cannot read a word the Harappans wrote. Until someone deciphers the Indus script, if it can ever be deciphered, we are locked out of their own account of themselves. Their gods, their laws, their kings if they had them, the names they called their city and each other. We have their streets and their drains and their seals, and not one of their sentences. It may be the most important unread writing on earth. We still cannot say with confidence who ruled them, or how a society this large held itself together so peacefully and so long without the usual machinery of kings and armies. We do not fully understand their religion, the meaning of the Great Bath, or the faces on their seals. And while climate and the failing rivers are our best explanation for the end, even that is a story assembled from sediment and ruins, not from any voice that lived through it. So picture Mohenjo-daro as it is now: bare brick walls under a hard sun, a grid of empty streets, a sealed bath holding nothing but air, and somewhere in a museum case, a small bronze woman with her hand on her hip, and a bearded man whose name we invented. They built one of the first and finest cities the world had ever seen. They ran it, somehow, for centuries. And then they walked away into the dust and the silence, leaving behind a civilization we can measure to the millimeter, and still cannot hear. Mohenjo-daro has given up its streets, its wells, its astonishing plumbing. We can measure its bricks and map its grid and stand at the edge of its silent bath. But the people themselves remain just out of reach, their rulers unknown, their faith uncertain, their writing unread, their final years pieced together from dust and drought. The most advanced city of its age, built by a people we cannot hear. Some cities don't want to be found, and some, even when we find them, refuse to say a word. Buried worlds. Next time, we climb to a high plain in the Andes, almost 4,000 meters above the sea, to a field of shattered stone blocks cut with a precision that seems impossible for their age. Interlocking, machine flat, and scattered as if by a giant's hand. We call it Puma Punku. Puma Punku, stone cut like machine work, high in the Andes, by a people who left no tools and